The Haunted Texas series is taking over Talk About the Hill Country. We will be here every weekday morning from October 21st to October 31st. If you miss a story, hear it on Halloween night starting at 6 p.m. The broadcast is being carried on KNAF AM 910 and KFAN 107.9 Texas Rebel Radio. Our sponsor is the Mason County Historical Society. These eerie, sometimes gory, and always fascinating haunted Texas tales are being brought to us by historians and educators from the Texas Historical Commission, the Texian Blog, and the Texas Center at Schreiner University. These Texas tales are true to life and death, so listener discretion is advised. Now settle back and enjoy HC Broadcasting's presentation of Haunted Texas.
I met Ray Tice through a friend of a friend, and we quickly learned that we both shared a love of Texas folklore, especially ghost stories. He's been collecting them for a while, like I have, and he's even been to some of the spots, or haunts, to see if he could scare some ghosts up. He's been generous enough to pick out a few spooky yarns from his own collection and share them with me. He's a local boy to the Fredericksburg and Llano areas, so the tales he sent me are set in this region for some nice local flavor. Here's one of those stories now. The Weeping Woman of Harper. 5 miles south of Harper once stood the withering remnants of a beautiful ranch house. For generations, the old homestead could be seen from the rural 2-lane Ranch to Market Road 783, which passes the site. Sadly, the landmark lost its fight against both nature and time in 2021. Nothing remains now except possibly the foundation stones. A short distance from the site of this homestead, densely surrounded by saplings and brush, is a towering oak tree. For many years, this landmark has been known as the Maiden's Gallows. In the 1950s, William Campion recorded a popular Fredericksburg folk tale that presents an origin story for the morbidly named oak tree near Harper. In his book, The Lore and Legend of the Texas Hill Country, Campion relates the foreboding legend that was seemingly well known in the area during the early 1900s. About 1866, 2 young brothers arrived in Fredericksburg with the intention of establishing a cattle ranch. Their father had recently passed in one of the Carolinas, leaving to his 2 sons a sizable inheritance. This pair of siblings, only remembered as the Knott brothers, brought along with them 2 young and very attractive women of African-American ancestry. Initially, when the 4 arrived in Fredericksburg, it was suspected that the 2 women might have been slaves that were not permitted to go free. However, the 2 women were quick to refute those accusations by saying that they had been slaves, but were accompanying the Knott brothers of their own free will. People could not figure out if the girls were lovers of the 2 brothers or just exactly what the nature of their relationship was. Nonetheless, a year passed and all was proceeding well with the Knott brothers' ranch. The 2 men were able to purchase a large herd of cattle and were already planning a cattle drive to the Midwest markets. Their 2 lovely companions were also enjoying the success of the ranch and would make frequent trips to Fredericksburg to converse with others and purchase commodities. Gradually, the women became well known among the local social circles and highly sought after by a number of young men. But neither really showed any interest in the admirations that were cast upon them. One time, only one of the women came into Fredericksburg. At first, she claimed that her companion was ill and unable to make the trip, but after a number of visits and still no sign of the other woman, suspicions arose. Finally, a neighbor of the Knott brothers made a call upon the ranch to inquire about the condition of their fair maiden and discovered the young woman with a protruding lump in her stomach. She was pregnant, but refused to reveal who the father was. So naturally, gossip pointed to one of the 2 brothers as being the father of the child. But no answer was ever given to those accusations, and it all remained only speculation. But matters reached a peak about 6 months into the pregnancy, when the Knott brothers themselves were suddenly being accosted by demands to reveal which of them was the baby's father. The situation became so dire that it began affecting the brothers at public auctions, and the profits from their ranch were taking a nosedive. Eventually, none of the brothers nor the women ever showed their faces in Fredericksburg again. After several months of no appearances in Fredericksburg, a concerned friend of the Knott brothers called upon the local sheriff to make a trip to their ranch. The lady wanted to offer her help in taking care of the newborn baby, in a somewhat motherly approach to the Knott brothers and their companions. She did not care about who the father was, just as long as the mother and the child were in good health. The sheriff agreed and ventured out to the ranch to deliver the offer. What he found was a horrifying scene. The house seemed to have been ransacked, and it was in complete disarray. Fields were overgrown, and the cattle remaining were nearly skin and bones. There were no signs of the brothers or of the two women, and clearly the place had not been inhabited for at least 3 weeks or more. But as the sheriff looked around the estate, he discovered that the soon-to-be mother was still there. Her lifeless body bloated, swaying in the warm hill country breeze. As an investigation proceeded, it was sadly discovered that the woman was still with child at the time of her death. Descriptions of the Knott brothers, as well as their remaining female companion, were dispatched to every community and settlement within 100 miles. Some reports came in of sightings of the threesome seemingly heading towards Mexico, but none of these leads were ever confirmed. Eventually, it was determined that the murderers had made a successful getaway. The murdered woman was buried in the Fredericksburg Cemetery with a simple headstone donated by her friends. Following the incident, though, neighbors to the Knott brothers would venture by the old homestead to see if maybe the trio had returned. Eventually, a friend of the two women noticed a lone woman sitting at the base of the tree where the mother-to-be had been found. The lady was weeping loudly, her head hanging low, and wearing a simple gray dress on a rather cold afternoon. The friend of the women ran towards this weeping girl at the base of the tree. She called out to her as she got closer, but each attempt did nothing to persuade the weeping figure to lift its head in response. The friend touched the weeping woman's arm. It felt like ice. Only then did the figure raise its head. It was the dead mother. The apparition had pale, wide eyes, as bright as the summer moonlight. Her once lovely face now distorted and beaten, it seemed. She raised herself to her feet, glaring lifelessly at her former friend. She screamed as loud as the winter wind, and her friend raced from the tree as quickly as her legs could carry her, with the shrieking echoing behind her. From that moment on, the tree became known as the Maiden's Gallows. For many years it stood by the fading remains of the Knott brothers' ranch, a popular and very spooky landmark for those living nearby. Many generations of Gillespie County residents have experienced sightings of the woman's ghost. At the time of William Campion's retelling, the site was still very active and widely renowned. But nowadays, there are not many who remember the legend, and the number of experiences reported have greatly diminished since the 1950s. Perhaps the spirit of the weeping woman has been exorcised. Perhaps folks today aren't as close to the spirit world in our cynical age as we used to be. Who knows? But I'd wager that if one were to venture forth on a moonlit night and found the exact spot where the Knott house once stood, and listen to the night things chattering about you. A chill wind may suddenly arise, blowing on your face, carrying with it a sobbing cry that will send you scrambling back through the darkness to escape the night's memory. Pleasant dreams.
Attention Hill Country residents. Join the Mason County Historical Society for our annual meeting on November 22nd at 6 p.m. in the Stribley Room of the Mason Library. This year, we're thrilled to welcome geologist Brian Hunt from UT Austin, who will take us on a fascinating journey through the geology of Mason County. Discover how our landscape evolved from ancient seas to the era of dinosaurs and even mammoths. Bring your rock samples for identification and enjoy refreshments as we delve into our local history together. Everyone's welcome, no membership required. For more information, visit us on Facebook or at masonmuseums.org. Let's find out together what's under our feet. Don't miss this enriching experience with your community. This has been a special presentation by HC Broadcasting, our Haunted Texas series for the Halloween season. First, thank you to our presenters, Ben Freiberg of the Texian Blog and the Texas Center at Schreiner University, and Shannon Smith of the Texas Historical Commission and Fort Martin Scott. A huge shout out to our sponsor, the Mason County Historical Society. If you love local Texas history, be sure to participate in the Mason County Historical Society's annual meeting on November 22nd at 6. It'll be held at the Stribbling Room in the Mason County Library. Find out what's under your feet, geologically speaking. Check out their website at masonsmuseum.org. Want to get on the regular calendar for Talk About the Hill Country? Call 830-997-2197, email knafnews@gmail.com, mail to P.O. Box 311 in Fredericksburg, or stop by the studio at 304 East San Antonio Street. Hope you enjoyed your Haunted Texas.